Hi everyone, welcome to the Candice community. We are so excited today to be welcoming our market ambassadors, Andrew Pike and Cory Christopher. Hi everyone.
Hi everybody.
Hi.
I wanted to mention before we get going that you can use the question and chat box on your panel to type us a question at any time. This presentation is meant to be just a little bit of fun. It's a coffee break. Did you bring your coffee? I brought mine. If you want to type in right now and see if that question and chat box is working for you, let us know if you have a coffee, a tea, a cocktail, something else going on. And today we're just here to have a lot of fun. So let me introduce our presentation. This is a coffee break with Andrew Pike and Cory Christopher. We feel very fortunate that we were able to see everyone for our shows in January and February, and we're going to reminisce about some of those best moments and fun things, great products, and trends that are going to be happening now and post-COVID-19. Andrew Pike, can you please give us an introduction of yourself and let us know where people can connect with you?
Hi, Nicole, and hi, everyone. I'm Andrew Pike, and if you haven't noticed already, this is Mango. So Mango can apparently tell time because she likes to have a cuddle every day at 2 and at 4. So I was afraid that this would happen, but it was either allow her to come and jump on my lap or keep her outside the door and have her screaming for half an hour. As anyone who has a cat knows, there's only one option. You do what they're training you to do. So I'm in downtown Toronto. I'm thrilled to be here. I'm the Toronto Market Ambassador. I'm an interior designer and a consultant and a host. And you can follow me on Instagram. That's probably my favorite channel. That's where I do the most activity. But if you want to know more about me and what I do, just feel free to visit my website at any time at andrewpikeinteriors.com.
Welcome, Andrew. And Cory Christopher, our Alberta Market Ambassador. Please give an intro of yourself and where people can connect with you.
Well, hello to everybody. I hope you are having a fabulous day. I sadly do not have a cat, so I feel a little like under ready for this, which I know. I don't particularly, cats and I have a long history. So I am actually at my design studio downtown Edmonton. We have been lucky enough to be keeping a little busy with some fun and exciting projects. And we do interior design, a little bit of landscape design. We throw in a whole bunch of weddings, events. As I like to say, there is always creativity happening in our studio. So it's a fun way to sort of get to be sharing that with everybody. So if you want to check me out on Instagram as well, it has a lot of our behind the scenes. It shows you what's happening. I also work with my parents and we have a gorgeous farm as well. So a lot of the behind the scenes to show you a little bit of inspiration and hopefully put a smile on your face.
That's great. Welcome, Cory. And a couple people have typed in, and it seems like most people today are drinking tea at our coffee break party. Who would have thought? Okay, we are going to put up a few pictures from our past shows just to get your initial reactions and to talk about some of those fantastic products that we saw all together, and also just to reminisce about some of our events that take place within the event. So Cory and Andrew have not seen the photos that are going to come up on our slideshow today. So it should be a good time for everyone. Okay, Andrew. Candice game time. Describe this moment.
In a word right now, I'm going to go with embarrassing. But you know what? I'm pretty much game. You know that I'm pretty much game to do anything. And last show was the first time we tried a completely new concept for presentations where I'd always done kind of a keynote in the Cohen Ballroom, which was great. And I loved doing it. But we kind of thought, let's make this a little more interactive and let's meet in the foyer around the feature areas and have a walkthrough. So that was kind of one of my first shout outs to everybody to get them all together. And they turned out to be a really good time. I had a great turnout for all of them. It was a really nice chance for me to have a one-on-one talk with a lot of people. And it was a great way to get those really quick tips and tricks out there on how to merchandise your stores.
Let's take a look at some of those feature areas. On our next slide here, We have the two that you created this past January, the living one and the Canadian one. And I really feel like they both hit home for what's going on right now. People, you know, enhancing their own spaces because everyone is sheltering in place and working remotely. And also Canadian, I think that's going to be a big trend going forward, looking for those made in Canada products. Can you take us through these feature displays?
Well, exactly what you say, Nicole. You know, we've been given an incredible opportunity to actually kind of spend more time at home, which I know is a double-edged sword. It's very frustrating not being able to do what you want, but it really makes you appreciate your environment. And no matter where I lived in the world and whether I owned or I was renting or I was there temporarily, making a living space comfortable was very, very important to me, and to make it personalized. So I love that we were able to create little individual vignettes of a living dining room, bedroom, and kitchen area, and all of the fabulous products that were supplied really stood out in those environments. And as far as Canadian is concerned, it's really, really encouraging for me to see our government and our country supporting our own businesses. I mean, we live in a global economy, so there's no doubt that we buy from all over the world, and that is a wonderful opportunity. But especially now, it's really nice to say, I would like to keep some money in my community, I would like to keep some money at home, and I would like to support my country because we're Canadian, and I really think that's what we do. We support each other.
Cory, is this a trend you're seeing in Alberta as well, with Canadian products and supporting businesses that way?
Well, I think everything that Andrew said is totally correct, right? Right now we have this amazing opportunity to support local, and I think it's always been in the background, right? You know, oh, I'll stop in and I'll support a local business. I'll, you know, try to purchase a Canadian product. But I think we're becoming very more a hyper sense of what is around us, what is accessible to us, what is our not only footprint right now, but I think a lot of people are stepping up to the plate to support their local businesses. And, you know, I think that is an amazing opportunity to discover things. I highly encourage people, you know, if you ever have a couple minutes, go onto Instagram and type Canadian products. You know, start to look at where you can be supporting people and across this country, because many of them are shipping products. Many are handmade, which I think I've always loved the idea of heirloom pieces, pieces that have been passed down. And some of my favorite from my grandmother is pieces that were made by someone else and that they are passed down to my mom and now to me. And I think reevaluating how we shop and buy, and instead of just buying things because, you know, oh, we need to put a vase there, so we'll buy a vase. Well, what about a vase that has a story? What about a vase that has meaning? And I think when we're in our homes right now and having to, you know, be isolated or quarantine or, you know, not be adventuring in the world, it's great to have those pieces to adventure in our own living space. And I think they can add so much to our personal story as well. So I would say, yes, we're seeing that. I think it'll continue. And that's a really exciting thing, because I think we can be truly proud of the products being made in this country, and we should be able to share that with everyone. So be open to also sharing where you're finding things. I think that's what Instagram is so amazing, is because you can see where someone found something. And I will DM someone being like, oh my God, where did you get that mug? Or where did you get that plate? Or who's selling that beautiful piece of art? And it can start conversations that we wouldn't normally have. So I think, you know, even out of a dark situation, we can find some beauty to surround ourselves with.
Okay, Cory, let's take a look at some things we had going on with you in Alberta this past February. One of your most popular events within the event is the Bloom Room.
Yeah, I love the Bloom Room. Like, I am about creativity, and I love the question. I still get this question, who's creative in the room? I'll ask, and like people be like, I'm not. I don't have a creative bone. And what's so amazing about the Bloom Room that we're able to do in Alberta is create a space that feels safe for creativity to actually flourish. And that is so important because everybody is creative. Everybody does have that touch of creativity. And I think so often we get barreled into very specific lanes of, well, you know, being a secretary isn't creative, or being in certain positions or professions is not creative. But yet, if we really dissect the entire world in terms of that, oftentimes we are creative, we just don't recognize it. So it was so much fun to welcome people. We made a beautiful flower arrangement. We also got to do a beautiful terrarium. You know, everybody loves planting and playing in the dirt, and especially in Alberta, because in February it was still fairly nice, but it was cold, there was snow, and so to be able to, you know, bring that little bout of spring into people's spaces was wonderful. So I love that opportunity, and I love to watch what people create. I think that is such a gift to be able to see how someone takes the same elements and create something totally different from their neighbor. I just think that that shows how unique and personable we all are, and how our own experiences and stories influence how we work and create.
Andrew, how have you been tapping into your creativity while we've been at home for the past 9 weeks?
Well, a lot of my creativity goes into reusing and restyling the things that I have. So one of my favorite things that I love to do on a weekend when I have time is I'll take all of the accessories out of a room, I'll put them in a neighboring space or on the floor, I'll pull things out of cabinets and cupboards. I'll obviously pour myself a glass of wine, because that's how things really get creative. And then I just kind of restyle things. I look at how they can be reused or recreated or upcycled, or do I spray paint this, or do I polish this now, or do I let it patina even more? So that's what I've been doing, and I've actually been helping some friends virtually, just through online Instagram posts or whatever they happen to be. I've got this, would you use it? I'm like, yes, spray paint it white, we're going to get new crystals for it, it's going to be great, it's fabulous. So that's been a great outlet for me too. And I've also, I mean, I thought I was organized before. I like to be an organized person, but honest to goodness, you could host a cocktail party in my furnace room right now. It is on point. It is so good.
I like this concept of reinvention, because I think that really spans a lot of different business types right now. So where you guys are creatively reinventing things and reinventing spaces and programs that you have going, other businesses are looking to do the same in different ways. So I think it's been a really important time for reflecting on that. Let's see.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I really, as well, no, just to finish, I love what Cory said. When people say I'm not creative, they don't think they are. I think it's times like this when we're kind of, the world has been completely shaken up. I believe everyone has creativity in them, and now's a perfect time to just try something. It's a good outlet to just try it.
Well, it looks like Cory is trying something in this next photo on the screen. So it's the Can Give game time. Describe this moment for you, Cory.
This is when Cory gets a creative idea and is too much of a creative and artistic director, and it's like, hey, let's throw a scarf up and try to create some movement or interesting stuff. I think it's very interesting because sometimes in the galleries, like the market gallery, the product just sits there, right? And there's nothing wrong with that, because there is a visual beauty to that. But I think actually I'm very much a tactile designer. I like to touch it, I like to feel it, I like to see how it moves. And so this was just a spontaneous moment that we had happen. It was fun, it was exciting. It actually turned out beautiful. I love this shot, just because I think it's fun to be playful. And I think that's a really important thing that I have learned, especially in the last few weeks, is taking things too seriously can really take your mental brain down a path that you might not want to journey down. And so finding the lightheartedness, finding the humor, finding the joy in those small moments is so important right now. And so that photo actually just completely makes me smile, because just being myself and crazy is a good thing, I would like to think.
Perfect. Embrace it, right? Okay, let's check out our next slide. And these are a few product photos from the Toronto Gift and Home Market. Andrew, I put some of these up because I knew that you had your eye on the cutlery set from David Shaw for a party that you were putting together earlier this year. I also put up the picture of Frida from Abbott because I noticed that Frida was everywhere in gift products this past show. And then something that's a little bit more fun from Can Floyd. They do make all of their own sayings for their pillows, which is something that's really unique and done here in Canada, and that one's kind of funny. So comment on the following.
I mean, I love that cutlery caught my eye the second I saw it, and that iridescent thing ties in perfectly to the unicorn craze, which is everywhere right now. And I just thought it was so fun and interesting. And you're right, the Frida thing, there's always something that just kind of comes out of the woodwork and it just grabs you, and it's really, really fun. And I mean, I love a good pillow. I love a lot of good pillows, actually. So any kind of thing like that on it is so good. But that saying actually reminds me of one of the best memes I've seen right now through all of this COVID nonsense, which is the following: my house right now is like Las Vegas. I'm losing money by the minute. Cocktails are appropriate at any time of day, and nobody knows what time it is.
Accurate.
Very accurate.
Very accurate. Totally. I shouldn't say that. I am working. Okay, we've got a few pictures coming up from the Alberta Gift and Home Market. So Cory, I put these ones up here because kind of following along with the pillow from the Toronto show, we have this mug and this sign. The mug's from Pine Tree Innovation saying, "I don't rise and shine, I caffeinate and hope for the best." Franz Copper's going along with sort of like the sayings and words on products. Namaste, home with my dog, seems very appropriate right now. And Sunshine Trading Post, they're part of our trips section, and just some products that kind of reflect the Alberta landscape, if you want to comment on those.
Well, I think phrases and sayings right now are so important to have around us, whether they're meant in a comical or humorous way, or if they're meant to inspire. I don't know. I've been finding myself like literally writing Post-it notes with inspiration quotes and sticking them on doors or windows where I'll see them, and just have that little moment of being inspired. And I think those little reminders, because of how, you know, we've had to slow down in a really unique way. And I think we're so used to being bombarded with content, which we still are. As much as we're disconnected, we're not, right? We all have our computers and our phones and all of those things. So I think these constant reminders are really important, and I've recognized how important it is to have that mental check-in with those things. Again, to laugh, to smile, you know, to have a thoughtful moment. And I think also just wherever you are, and, you know, in Alberta, of course, we love cowboy boots and we love cowboy hats and horses, but I think really embracing what is around you from a visual standpoint. And, you know, right now people are looking for comfort and nostalgia. And I think that's really going to be a huge trend, is people, as much as we want to explode out into the world right now after being, you know, isolated, I still think we want to cocoon ourselves. We want to be protected. And so looking for products that are going to create that feeling, whether it be blankets, pillows, as Andrew was talking about, those things that provide a richness to our environments wherever you may be, I think are going to be truly pivotal to making us feel at home and making us feel safe.
We do have a comment that's come in. One of the reps is actually on with us from Can Floyd, Pam. Hi, Pam. And she just commented on the pillow that we had up from the Toronto show, saying thanks for the shout out, and that they have a great collection to get in touch with Can Floyd at any time. They have lots of new products in their line of pillows right now. Okay, Can Gift game time. This one is describe the inspiration. So this is actually a photo from the Toronto show that Andrew had curated as one of the main feature displays, but we really just want to talk about inspiration in general here. Where are you drawing your inspiration from in your own projects that you're working on? Let's go to Andrew first.
So that was kind of one of the first visuals you saw when you walked through registration in the South this past January. And I really, really loved it. And what you can't see, for those of you that, if you don't recognize this, that female mannequin is holding an enormous bouquet of balloons. I mean, each balloon was almost 3 feet across, and I think there were 16 or 18 of them. It was huge. And so I'm a firm believer that everything should have kind of a touch of whimsy or a touch of quirkiness to it, because that really kind of grabs the eye and makes you think. So the starting point for this actually came down to the color, because when the color palette came out for that season's show and the new color was Neo Mint added to all the shades of blues, I thought, you know, mint is a really interesting color because it can go wrong so quickly. But I love the color when it's done well and it's done right. So I started to think about mint and blue and white and what works well with that. And gold works beautifully with blue and mint. And all of a sudden I was playing with all these things on my desk, and I just kind of got this feeling for like a French garden with all of those beautiful, you know, like the rosemary and the lavender plants that have that kind of minty feel to them because they've got a kind of a whiteness, grayish to the leaves. And that just turned into using the gold Chiavari chairs, which are hung from the ceiling, and the French topiaries with a beautiful white rose detail. And then one of my favorite tricks, I've said this a million times, is we're always trying to come up with new and creative and affordable ways to really make a statement. And one of the things that I love is duct tape, because it comes in a multitude of colors, a multitude of sizes. It's really quite affordable. And if you look in the back corner, you can see we created a trellis pattern with simple white duct tape on top of the blue carpet. So it goes down, it stays for the duration of the show, it's easy to remove. And I just really wanted something that was a little more editorial and a statement. So just 2 mannequins, huge balloons, it's fresh, it's light, it's airy, it's inspirational. And I was really, really pleased with that.
That was a beautiful display, and I love the color mint personally. I know what you're saying though, because I actually own a house that's about 75 years old that we just purchased, and it came with full mint paint job on the interior. So maybe mint overkill there, mint going in the direction it shouldn't be. Yet I just ordered a pair of mint Converse shoes. So I'm going with the trend. I think it is really pretty, like you've used it here in this display. Cory, where are you drawing your inspiration from with your floral business these days?
Well, I think what's interesting is I remember this display as well, because when I walked in, I was like, oh my gosh, all I could think about was, oh my God, I want to put that in a wedding. Like, what if every centerpiece was just a collection of balloons so it felt like clouds? So, you know, for me, it's so interesting to walk through spaces. And I think, you know, I'm always gathering from everywhere possible. Like, that was a moment that I happened to be, you know, stumbled across it, and I visually remembered it. I noted it. I was like to my staff, I'm like, we need to catalog this idea for when we get the right experience to do that. For me, I love nature. I'm always outside and having those experiences, looking at ways in which Mother Nature engages us visually, stumbling across things. I've had a lot of time at the farm to wander around and, you know, see moss growing on boards and lichen growing on trees, or even how the structure of a tree happens. I'm also a huge person who loves to watch movies and TV shows, probably to my detriment. But I'm so inspired. Like, I'll be watching, currently my watching involves The West Wing, because I'm growing up never really engaged with it. But it's funny because I watch these moments of these interior spaces that are so interesting, right? And how people engage within them. So I think you can find inspiration anywhere. Magazines are really great. Pinterest is good. But I really try to look past my own industry and look beyond that, right? You know, looking at ancient history. I was reading about the Egyptians recently because I was intrigued by pyramids and triangular formations for a project we were working on. So I think you can really find any sort of inspiration everywhere that's possible, and sort of can have everything fuel together. So I think anywhere can be inspiring.
We've had a question come in.
Okay.
Take a moment to just review this question, going back to the topic of pillows. can you talk a little bit more about how pillows enhance a living space, and should they be changed or rotated seasonally? Let's throw it to Andrew.
So I'm like the king of pillows. I'm that designer that, you know, I walk in with hundreds of pillows that when I'm starting a project and the client gets a look at it and they're like, oh my gosh, we don't need all of these pillows. And I'm like, you don't know that you need them yet, but you're going to need them. So I firmly believe not only in the layers of softness or texture or color that they add to a space, that's very, very important. I believe they should be functional. I believe at the end of the day, you should be able to fire one behind your head and put your feet on another and kick back and relax. That's what they're meant to do. They shouldn't be too precious, in my humble opinion. And yes, I do change up my pillows seasonally. I have kind of very light neutral pillows that I use through the summer. I go into like a dark, richer in tweeds and textures in the fall. In Christmas, there's velvets that come out and make an appearance. So I think it's a great way. And the thing that a lot of people don't always realize is that you don't have to go out and buy new pillows all the time. A certain amount of my pillows are bases, so they are neutral and they stay. And then only other ones pop in and out. And if you go to somewhere or you sell a system where the covers fit the insert, then you just get the covers, you change them out, they fold up, they don't take any space in the closet really, and you can keep the look going and make it different as often as you want.
We have a few people that are commenting in saying thanks for the answer. They totally agree. Some should be rotated seasonally, and they like the idea of having some that are staples. So thank you very much for addressing that question as it just popped in. Okay, let's go to our next slide. Okay, Toronto Gifts and Home Market. We have the Market Mixer. Obviously a great time for us when people were still able to get together and celebrate and have fun parties. What were your thoughts on this year's mixer, Andrew?
I loved it. I thought it was such a great time. It's a really nice opportunity right off the top. You know, everybody's hyped up. They're in a great mood. They want to get together. They've been setting up. They've been flying in. There's a lot of stuff happening. So it was a really, really nice time to get together. I had a lot of fun.
And for people who haven't joined us for the Market Mixers before, they are a mix, a true mix of industry professionals and exhibitors and sales reps, as well as retailers from all across Canada. Just sort of like a get-together, casual mix and mingle night with a fun DJ. So let's go on to the Alberta Gifts and Home Market. Cory, we had a groovy party there.
We did.
Unfortunately, I wasn't there this year to take in the disco theme, but why don't you tell everyone what that was like?
Well, since I had to research a bit of what the disco theme was because I wasn't quite around at that time. So I need to find out what I could wear, and luckily had an amazing team. So luckily figured it out, like a little Chanel, a little wig, some like sunglasses, and I was set to go. I love the Market Mixers because I think what you just said, Nicole, is so true. It's this combination of people coming together. And what's so great about that is you can have fantastic conversations. And one of my rules anytime I go to an event that I don't necessarily know everybody at, or I want to learn and meet new people, is I often will actually make a rule that I go to 3 people I don't know and try to start a conversation, and sort of just get to know people, get to know what people are talking about and thinking about. And I think that's what's so great about those is really it doesn't matter, you know, whether you're a retailer, whether you're a buyer, whether you're a supplier, everyone has a unique story or things that you can always learn from. So I absolutely love them. I think it's a great way to engage and just have a little bit of fun because all of that walking can really hurt those legs after a while.
We have someone writing in that they attended the Market Mixer for the first time and had wonderful conversations with other retailers. So again, it's on like the main point of having these functions. And of course, this is our nostalgic moment because we're not able to come together and have that type of interaction with people right now. So it was fun for us to reminisce. Let's see what's next. Candice game time. Is this too personal? Andrew.
Too personal in what way? I mean, we all have undies. What is the personal question?
These are some new products that came out from one of our exhibitors, Pook. They actually exhibit in both shows, Toronto and Alberta, so our audience is familiar with them from both places. And this is from their brand new line, just launched in 2019, and going more into the intimate apparel. Cory, any thoughts?
Fabulous. I love them. Sorry, I'm not finished talking about them because I couldn't see that they were called Pook, which I think is hilarious.
Yeah.
You know, everyone wants a good pair of Pook panties.
Well, I think it's totally a market, right? Like at the end of the day, I think there's something fun and playful about them, which I think, it's a fun gift. I think that's a really cool, like, yes, it is a bit personal, but I think the lightheartedness of it is fun. I think also we're sometimes a little too serious about like, oh, we can't talk about that. Oh my gosh. And I'm like, well, actually everybody needs underwear of some sort. So it's really not that big of an issue, right? It actually sort of makes it fun and more conversational. And I think people would love that. And I think, to be honest, I think it's very trendy in the sense of millennials, right? Instead of it being boring and basic, how do we, like, in some ways, spice that up in a more conventional way? And I think Canadiana prints are super popular right now. As we talked about at the beginning, we're really sort of gathering around that whole concept. So I think this is fun and playful and not too personal at all.
I also think
I mean, the thing that you've got to remember is that Cory and I are creatives. So just by working in a creative environment, the expectations of how we dress are completely out the window because, we can wear what we want, we express ourselves through clothes, but a lot of people can't do that. And being able to put on a quirky pair of underwear and go to your office job in a suit and tie is kind of like, in some ways, wearing a superhero costume underneath your regular duds. I really like it. I think it's fabulous.
I think this is a good option too for people looking to pick up a product that might be cross merchandising for them that they don't typically sell in their store, but they want to introduce something that's more novelty or more gift, a little bit of fashion. Yeah. A good option for that. Okay, and we could not go without talking about the color of the year. So this picture was from the Toronto Gift and Home Market, and it was at Bovie, and they had a little display set up featuring some items in the classic blue color, the Pantone color of the year. Wondering how people can incorporate this trend as they're reopening their stores. Can they incorporate it online? What are you doing with this trend? Cory, why don't you start?
I love blue tones. Like, I think it's very reminiscent of water. It's ocean. It can be a river. It can be a stream. So I think there's something refreshing and relaxing about it. And I think there's so many ways that you can incorporate this. It's sort of funny though, because color of the year, usually I'll get about 20 emails from brides and grooms being like, oh, we want to use the color of the year. This year, not so much. Not everyone wants to go blue, but when it's pink or green, so it's an interesting thing how we choose which to engage with in terms of the color of the year. But I think, I'm always mindful of how much of this is a trend versus something that has some substance to it and that will stay. And so I think finding the balance of that within your own store or what you're doing, maybe it's as simple as painting some planters outside your front door, right? Andrew mentioned spray paint earlier. It's a great opportunity if you can find something that would match within that tone to create that little pop. I think what it does do is it shows that you're listening to where design is going and what is happening with design. And I think that's very important, especially as you reopen. And I think a lot of stores are in a very unique position. It's not just about selling product anymore. It's really about showing themselves as experts. It's showing them whether that be design, gardening, home, thoughtful gifts, all of those components. So, I love adding this in and being thoughtful about it. And I think if you can find interesting ways to create visual displays using it as a centerpiece, I think that's really smart. You know, even painting some palettes this color would be really cool because palettes are super popular on Pinterest. But I do love it, and I love what visual it brings and what it creates. So those would be a few of my little suggestions in terms of infusing it into a storefront or ways into your life.
Andrew, anything to add to that? Some ways you're using this color?
Yeah, to second what Cory was saying, you know, I think the power of blue really lies in the fact that it's water and sky, which are two incredibly powerful visuals and incredibly relaxing visuals for most people. So that it's an air of tranquility. It's also very regal and lovely. It pairs beautifully with gold, which is still on trend. So that's really nice. We all know that paint is the quickest and easiest way and the most affordable way to change something up. So paint one big wall, paint the planters, paint the door, you know, make some big statement with this color because everything pops out against it. Yellow looks great with it. Red looks really cool against it. Orange looks fabulous with blue. So you can pop all those colors out with it, but make the statement because yes, you want to be on trend. You want to be known as a trend leader and not a follower, and do it. And then when something else changes, if it's just paint, it's a quick and easy fix.
Fantastic. Great tips from these experts. I hope everyone is taking this all in. So moving along, we're on our thank you slide. This is a great opportunity for anyone out there that has a question they want to ask Andrew or Cory right now. So we'll encourage you to use that question chat box. I see actually one has come in already, so let's throw it out here. How do you think trend directions will change because of COVID-19? Cory, any thoughts on that first?
Well, I think it's interesting because if you look at the fashion industry right now, there's been a huge movement to postponing most of the collections that were based for this year. And if we use fashion as one of our guidelines in terms of where trends are going, or at least starting to maneuver, so I think it will actually slow us down a little bit in being a bit more thoughtful about what a trend is and why it is trendy and why we want to have it around us. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think there's been a lot of movement to this is trendy, well, we use it for 2 days and then it's gone, or it's good for a month and then it's on to the next thing. And it creates this massive cycle of just disposable product, in my opinion. And so we do need to be a bit more sustainable in how we're producing product, how we're engaging with that product, and how we're selling it. So I think our trends are going to move a little bit more to being, I think, a little bit longer. Like before we had the internet, you know, Europe would start 5 years out in advance, and little old Alberta would maybe get it 6 years later, and it would be on some sort of encrusted pillow. But it's so true. And I remember those days of being like, oh, I love that, and you could not find it anywhere. But now being so connected, it's instantaneous. But that might not be a good thing in terms of why is it trendy and why do we want to be part of that trend? And those are questions I'm always asking of my own design company and being creative, is because I also want to be thoughtful about which things I'm engaging with. So I think that would sort of be where I would see trends going. I think it is going to become a little lax. I don't think it'll be like, oh, these 5 things are trendy. I think it'll be more like, what do we need? What are we needing in our world to better help us continue to move forward?
Andrew.
I honestly see one of the trends coming out of this as being a real one to support each other and our neighborhoods and our communities. I think having, you know, I shop for a living as well, and I'm constantly online and I'm constantly in showrooms, and you know, they have a wonderful place in society. But this has really forced me, when this all kind of started to break in end of February, March, I was working on clients and I wanted to kind of get them kind of finished up, you know, to be able to walk away and say, okay, we're not leaving someone in the lurch here. And I started to look for things that I would have normally gone online to major corporations or you know, major chains. And I just decided, I'm like, I need to spend a little bit more time and find things in my own neighborhood, because these are the people that are really struggling. These are our friends, these are our neighbors, these are our communities, and I want them here at the end of this. I want to know that they're doing well. And so I've noticed with my friends too, you can see, you know, as a country, we're really promoting Takeout Wednesday, to buy a meal and support a local business. So, you know, I started looking at the stores that I know are in my neighborhood and I have used, but I've been frequenting them more because they offer curbside pickup, they offer free local delivery, whatever it is. And I know that that's going to actually do a huge amount of good for everyone involved. So I think we're going to start asking more questions about where our things come from. They need to have more of a place in our lives and our homes. And we want to know that they have a story. And if I can buy something from a local store that is made or produced from a local company, that's really going to be my push going forward.
You know, kind of on this topic of trends the past few weeks is the trend of placing orders for things online, whether you place the order online and you do pick it up curbside right now, or you're placing it online to ship to your house. A lot of brick and mortar retailers, you know, this is new for them. This is a huge curve. Do you think that's a trend that's going to continue going forward? Should more people be getting online? I know you yourselves have pivoted your own businesses. What are your thoughts about that online shopping? Andrew.
Well, oh, sorry.
No, I definitely think I've read countless articles about people that have said, you know, they were really resistant to online purchasing. I was myself for a long, long time. I like the tactile experience of going to a store and holding it in my hands and trying it on. I think now, knowing that we've had months of practice doing this, people are, you know, more in tune with how this works, and it's going to be more comfortable. I think the online presence is imperative. I think there's still going to be now, we're humans. We have very short memories, you know, like we're going to be like, oh, good, it's lifted. I got to get out. I want to go to a store. I want to have that experience. So I think it's going to be really maintaining the balance of both. I think the online is going to continue to grow, and it's going to have to be coupled with in-person brick and mortar experiences that are exactly that. You're not going to buy a product, you're going for the experience.
Cory, what do you think?
Well, I completely agree. I think Andrew, you know, nail on the head with the two sort of concepts. For us, we've always had online, but it became a much more pivotal component. And I think the one thing to be mindful of, and I've done a lot of thinking about this from an online experience, because I as well like to touch things, I like to feel things, and stores often allow that unique opportunity for engagement of the senses. So you go into that, you can touch things, you can feel things, it makes you feel a certain way. And so what I think the next step to online experiences is just that. What is the overall experience? From the minute you go to the website, what is the follow-up interaction? How does that box arrive? How do you unpackage it? What, you know, all of those, is there a nice little card? You know, all of those little things are going to set you apart, because if everybody's now playing in the e-commerce platform, what does make you different? And how do you still bring a touch of that beauty from your store, especially if you're brick and mortar? How do you add that into that experience so when they do unopen that package, they are reminded of that if they've experienced it, or they're excited about that opportunity if they haven't yet visited you. So I think looking at those and what makes it unique for you is wonderful.
I do think that's kind of an interesting concept, because I mean, before this all happened, all in-person stores were looking to create those experiences just to get people to continue to come to them, because they were competing with online. And now, like you're saying, the online retailers are competing to provide the top experience with the full, you know, from point of purchase to unboxing it at your own home, to just, you know, thrive in the online world. So it's kind of a shift in that experience direction. We have another question. We actually have 2 questions left for today. before we call it a day. This one is asking, where do you think design fits in to help the retail community heal from everything that has occurred because of COVID-19? Andrew.
That's a really interesting question, but for me, I think design has always been around creating places of safety and comfort. And that's why it's been such an important part of my world. Because I'm going to tell a little anecdote, and I'm going to try and do this quickly, and Lord knows I can't talk anything slowly. So it's just going to take the time that it's going to take, Nicole. That's what I'm saying. But I had one of those days a couple of years ago, and everything had gone wrong. And it was just every job that I had, people were calling, the trades, my staff, clients. It was just a nightmare. And I was driving home, and I remember exactly where I was on University Avenue in downtown Toronto. And I had a phone call, and I flipped it over, and I saw that it was a client, and I knew that the client had just gotten a huge delivery of furniture prior to their install. And I just saw it, and I'm like, I'm not answering this because I know this is another one of those, you know, the furniture's too big, the color doesn't work, I don't like it, because they can never see it until the room is finished. And so I left it, and I went home, and I poured myself a glass of wine, and I finally just, you know, bit the bullet and said, I'm going to have to listen to the message, because if it's something I have to deal with, I have to deal with. And I picked up the phone, and she said, hi, it's, you know, the client, and I just wanted to let you know that I've just gotten home and from a long day at work, and all the furniture is in the living room and dining room, and I'm like, and I'm waiting for it. I'm waiting for it to drop. And she said, and although everything is still in plastic and covered up and not where it's supposed to be, I can finally see your vision coming to life. And I want to thank you for taking us on this journey of making our house a home. And I burst into tears in my kitchen, because at that moment, I finally got some of the validation for what we do for our clients. And it's creating them safe and beautiful spaces where they can make memories, and they can host their families, and they can be together. And I think that is what we are going to have to do as a community. This has been very, very hurtful and very hard on everyone involved. I would give my left arm to hug every person I meet. I'm just that person. And so by going into stores and creating beautiful spaces and inspirational vignettes and colors and sayings and all of those things that just make us feel good, that's where design is going to really help. We want to make everyone feel good.
Cory, do you agree?
Oh, completely. Like, I think what Andrew said is so poignant at the end of the day, right? Design really has this magical power. And I truly believe that. And like Andrew was saying, creating gorgeous and beautiful spaces that we can engage with and have be surrounded by. And I think, you know, this is a time that we're asking a lot of questions about things, how things are made, how things are created, where do they come from, what's the intention behind them, what's the thought process. And I think what's going to be the solving factor on so much of this is design. That we are actually going to start to redesign our lives. We're going to redesign the way we interact with people. We're going to redesign, hopefully, our communities to be more thoughtful and more equally based. And I think it's going to actually dig deep into our psyche around how are we engaging, you know, our communities. And sometimes I think design can be said, oh, that's frou-frou, that's unnecessary, it's just a few pillows, it's some, you know, hanging pieces of art. But I think we're underestimating its true power and its necessity in the world that we're creating. And so I look forward to seeing how, whether you're an interior designer, a landscape designer, a floral designer, an event designer, a designer in any medium, how your work actually will help not only to heal, but to start to solve some of the problems that, you know, we're seeing in the world and that need to be solved. And I've always believed it's part of our philosophy, but design can change the world. And I truly believe that. And I think this is a great opportunity to share with people that it's not frivolous, that it's not superfluous. It's that moment of, wow, this can actually really change people's lives. And I look forward to getting opportunities with our own clients to do that, to have further conversations about that. But there is a lot to be said about what design can do. So I look forward to seeing that emerge out of a situation that's been really trying for everyone.
And as both of you are discussing this angle, I'm thinking about this sort of interconnectedness between design and your floral design and your interior design and our own wholesale suppliers at the show and our retail audience and our reps and everyone that is like involved in making that wheel work. There's so many aspects of it, and it's going to be really, really interesting to see how we can all come together to support each other to navigate our way out of this. We have one final question that did come in, and this is, I guess, more of a design angle question as well. Someone is mentioning that they have been sheltering in place in a smaller space, a condo. Any design tips or pieces that can be used for more than one function would be great to know about right now.
Well, that is actually always key, and it's especially important in smaller spaces, but I use that principle in a lot of my design. When you're in a small space, is the console that your TV sits on, is it also at table height? Can you put a laptop on it and use a stool with it as a separate work surface? Does your coffee table have storage and elevate so it can become a dining table? Does your sofa convert to a bed or a chaise or something else? It's trying to find all of those multi-purpose pieces of furniture. But even beyond that, for me, something, Cory said earlier about just thinking outside of the box and being creative and coming up with new solutions. I had a client that had a bar cart that we now use as a kitchen trolley. So it didn't serve the purpose as a beautiful bar cart, but it really does with a stack of dishes and glassware and stuff for all the entertaining that they're doing. So it's finding pieces that just work for you as well. And now that you're spending time at home, I don't know about both of you, but I have made significant headway into emptying things out and getting rid of things that have been tucked in corners that I just don't need, and they can be donated or recycled or reused. And so, we're just thinning out our lives and making space for us in them and keeping the things in them that are most important to us.
Cory, any tips on small spaces? What flowers work best in a small space? What's your recommendation?
Well, I usually like recommending plants, to be very honest, because they're going to last a little bit longer. I think greening our spaces, even if you have a small space, I think the idea of bringing the outdoors in is so important. I know Andrew is a lover of antlers, so as am I, and I think that that's, one way to bring them in, right? Or a terrarium, or especially if we're in spaces that we're inhabiting more, making sure we have that natural connection, because we all love nature, we're all connected to nature. And it will help to make that space more. Now, that oftentimes is not functional necessarily, but I think it's finding those small spaces. I think everything that Andrew touched on is perfect in terms of, really thinking about functionality. Thinking outside the box is so important. Don't get locked into tunnel vision that, well, that's a coffee table. Well, is that a coffee table that can house all the kids' toys and then also have a little bookshelf on the side? Or, small spaces I actually really love because they provide, you are so limited creatively in some ways and yet so open in other ways. So, the walls are very non-adjustable, but it gives you the opportunity to really think, how can I engage this space? How can I use this space? And creating spaces that are beautiful and meaningful and tell our own story is so important to being surrounded by that, because that ultimately is going to help you, see the brighter days and share that with other people when we finally do get to gather again and bring people together in communal ways.
We've had some great comments come through during this session. If everyone could just type in a big thank you to Cory and Andrew, that would be fantastic. We had some people saying how much they do love that mint color and how fresh it is this spring and summer. Someone also commented in, it was Matt, saying that his Pook hat has started many conversations. So there you go. And we have a hug coming in for Andrew from Kelly in Newfoundland.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, here's everyone saying thank you, thanks, wonderful job. This was such a great breakout of my day. Thank you, Cory. Nice to see you from Edmonton. Thank you for the coffee break. So I think everyone had a great time with us today, just reminiscing and learning some tips and some thoughts on what you guys have going on right now and what you see as the future for trends and this industry. So thank you so much for taking this hour out of your day.
Thanks, everybody. I had so much fun. So I hopefully Andrew did as well.
I had a blast. Thank you both so much. Nicole, thank you for coordinating this and moderating it. Cory, always a pleasure to see you. And I can't wait until we can actually all see each other again in person.
I agree. That's going to be a fantastic day. So until then, thank you, everyone, and stay safe, stay well, and stay connected. Bye for now.